It's a wet and rainy day. I am Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. I want to share with you today the power of planning. It is so valuable for you to have a design plan or a plan for your small farm or homestead. And here are three very important reasons why. Number one, when you have a plan for your homestead, it builds up cognitive awareness. I know it sounds like a technical term, but basically it becomes familiar to you. So like if you buy a Ford truck, you're going to see more Ford trucks on the road because the Ford truck is top of mind. So when you plan for your homestead, small farm or estate, even if it's just a project-based plan, you will quickly discover that the information you need to make that plan happen. So for example, I'm investigating starting a homestead by first building pavilions or shells, timber frame shells, and then go ahead and start moving onto the property and build out the property over time as funds are available or as time is available or as the design evolves. That is a plan that I wrote down a while back. Now I see that plan being implemented by a large number of people because it is a good plan. If you create a plan that's not a good plan, you won't see the reinforcing evidence of its value, and then you'll go ahead and change your plan. And then you'll end up with a new plan, and you'll be that much further towards your goals and objectives. Number two, I wouldn't worry about the money as much. The money is important, but once you get on the property, if you have a clear idea of your expenses and your incomes, you can plan for that situation. So here's what I mean. When you go get on a farm, a lot of people think they're going to do the work themselves. Yes, account for that financially as if you're paying yourself minimum wage. But if you don't have enough money today to pay for that, then what you want to do is start planning accordingly. Start saving the money, setting aside the cash, setting up the budget. This is not something to worry about. This isn't something to fret. I hear a lot of people say, well, we don't have the money to start the farm that we want. Well, that's good. You know that. Go ahead and start planning for that. In the case of how much will it cost? I get a lot of questions about how do I afford this? How do I do this with no money down? I wouldn't try to do it cheaper. I would try to plan better and account for the money that you're going to need. So it might mean working a little bit longer. It might be working a remote job. It might be taking up a second job. It might be doing something differently rather than to kind of wing it without the right means. And finally, you can start learning today before you have your homestead. You can volunteer at a local farm. You can volunteer at a nonprofit. You can start doing the work in your own yard. So a lot of folks will tell me they're about this future homestead they're going to have. And I say, well, where do you live today? And most of the time, they don't live in an apartment or in the middle of a city. They live in a normal suburban house or a rural home, and they aren't currently implementing the things that they want to implement on this future date. I want you to have as much practice as possible. I want you to have a plan. I want you to have the means. I want you to have the practice so that when you do homestead, it's really just it's normal. It's like the normal thing you do. That's like when people tell me, well, I'd like to eat better. Well, just eat better. Make different choices. And this is critically important. A lot of folks that will write in, they'll say, hey, I want to do this in the future. And I'll say, okay, where are you today? And they don't find the gap in between the two. And then when I say, hey, look, what is the halfway point? So somebody said, hey, look, I live in a city. I don't have access to fresh food. I said, okay, great. Where's the local farmer's market? And they said, well, we don't have one. I said, okay, well, where's the not local farmer's market? Is there a farmer's market in the direction in which you want to buy this piece of property? See, they're telling me about the 20 acres they want to get and they want to do this. I said, okay, great. What's the bridge? How do we bridge to that? They feel better. They feel more having more progress. Their whole outlook changes. They realize they're working towards something of value. And so the good news is they can start eating better right now. They can start getting more outdoor activities right now. They can start getting more enjoyment about where they are right now. They can reduce clutter in their home. They can improve the quality of their lifestyle right now. And this is preparing them for that dream, preparing them for that place they want to be, preparing them for the next step in their journey. Now, again, your plan, is it a written plan? Yes. Is it going to outline buildings, structures, access points, everything like that? Yes. What if you don't have a piece of property right now? Well, your plan's going to be more generic. When you find a piece of property, it will be more specific. The generic plan is useful because it helps you in the selection of property. The specific plan, when you find a piece of property, is useful because it helps you order the projects that are necessary to get the outcomes that you're looking for. When it comes financially, what if you don't have the money to start? That's okay. Start something smaller. As long as you're moving in the direction of your goal, as long as you're working together as a family, as long as you're gaining the skills, you're succeeding in your homestead dreams, in your farm dreams. Now, a big mistake I see people make, though, is they go out and they get goats and chickens and rabbits and all this stuff, and they overwhelm themselves without a plan, and then they end up in a situation where it's a gloomy mess. Now, I'm sitting here in a truck recording a podcast in the rain. I'm not going to wait till I have the perfect studio to share the information that my subscribers need in order to live their small farm dreams. So it might mean that you have to go live in a van down by the river on your piece of property. So maybe you acquire a piece of property and you get the basics in place and you go live in a double wide, or you live in a single wide trailer, or you live in a travel trailer, or you build a tiny house and then you grow into where you want to be. The key is, with a written plan, with an awareness of the cash, but not a fear of the cash, and with skills, you're going to be in a position to have success rather than a prolonged, horrible, miserable situation. Because there are people who get out there and buy a piece of land, they start all this farming stuff on it, and then later they're worn out, tired, they can't afford it, and they have to get rid of that land for pennies on the dollar. Now, that's good news for you. It's unfortunate for them, but it's good news for you, because that means that if you have the right plan, you can implement that plan on a distressed piece of property. You can implement that plan and pick up where somebody else left off. You can implement that plan and get the results that you're looking for with the minimal setbacks. Now, when I say don't worry about the money, you have to think about, how can I afford this, rather than whether or not you can afford it. And that means maybe you start with just chickens. Maybe you start with just a garden. Maybe you start in the home that you have today, but you're volunteering at a local farm that's taking stuff to the farmer's market. I've heard people tell me about their dreams. They want to sit at the farmer's market and socialize and have that experience because they have a really good farmer's market in their area. But I said, well, have you had a job at the farmer's market before? Oh, no, I'm so busy. I don't know that I could do that. I said, well, you're going to be busy when you're farming and sitting at the farmer's market too. So at least you don't have the farm time taken. You can go sit at the market today and see, well, no, I know it's going to be great. And, in the future, again, the future is today. The things that you dreamt about years ago, they either happened or they didn't, but they are the present experience today. So what I'm advocating here is you start enhancing the lifestyle. You start driving towards your goals and objectives. You start opening the doors of the opportunity that you want rather than the dream that you have. Dreams are great, but if you put them on paper, you determine a budget, and you start building out the skill set, then the dreams will become reality. Understand this. This is critical. You want reality. Now, I know there's a lot of folks out there in a certain temperament of person who is comfortable with the dream. They just want the dream. They don't want to take any action, and they want a dream. That's not the type of person that listens to Prosperity Homestead. That's not the type of person that realizes the experience and the joy of living a more holistic life. Understanding that their clothes weren't made by slaves. Understanding that their food is quality food, clean food, good, high nutritional value food. Understanding that they're improving in health over time rather than consuming to the point of degrading their health. Prosperity Homestead is about realizing these dreams, realizing the opportunities that exist. Again, though, it takes 3 key concepts: a written plan, a understanding of what the cost might be, and that cost informs decisions rather than creates fear. Next, the skill acquisition. Now, you're doing that right now. You're learning about what's necessary. But if you're not practicing this, you won't see the practical elements. When I first got my permaculture design certification, I had already had years of experience with organic agriculture. I've had years of experience with environmentalism and conservation. But the skills I gained in the permaculture design certification gave me a more holistic view at an entire property that I did not have before. But not until I started implementing those skills did I realize that there are gaps in knowledge. So you can attend thousands of hours of courses and still not understand the gaps in knowledge that are necessary to implement the work. I started using permaculture. I started understanding how these systems work in my particular climate, with my particular region. So for example, in Martinsville, Henry County, there's a lot of rain, 44 inches of rain a year. So erosion management is more important than the ability to grow things. Now, if you grow things in your erosion control areas, then you've gotten some value out of that. But if you have erosion, it'll wash away your soil, it'll wash away your nutrients, and it's a critical factor to address. I would not have been so aware of that if I had not, on my own property, in my suburban neighborhood, went ahead and addressed the erosion issues and gardened. And even though that got me in trouble with the city, and even though I can tell you stories about being harassed and blackmailed and extorted, it's the experience of applying what I know about permaculture, applying at a different scale what I knew about organic gardening, and even getting involved in local farms. That solidified the knowledge, improved the plan, helped me understand the constraints, and ultimately drove me forward with better results. Now, I've seen this happen hundreds of times where people write a plan out. The plan is no good. That's okay. At least you know on paper the plan's no good, and you can adjust your plan. Again, don't let life rain on your dreams. Let's transform your dreams to reality by following these 3 simple steps. Written plan, identify the means or constraints, and then finally start working on the skills. Those 3 things will work together. You'll eventually skill up, and you'll understand you'll remove some constraints, you'll adjust your plan, you'll be implementing the plan in a project-based approach, and you will have a prosperous homestead. I want to thank you so much for being a listener of the Prosperity Homestead podcast or a subscriber of the Prosperity Homestead newsletter. If you have any questions about what I've covered here today, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. You can visit me at www.prosperityhomestead.org. Go to the contact page and ask your questions. I'd love to hear from you. We can apply this knowledge of permaculture, of natural systems, and we can help you achieve the outcomes and dreams you desire. It starts right now. Thanks for listening.